I'm Devin Voorsanger. I'm the CEO and co-founder of JuntoBot. The long and short of it is we train entrepreneurs all over the world in multiple languages. The idea being, if you want to start a business, we want to help you start the business, okay? But before this, I worked in academia. I was a tenured professor at City University of New York, where I ran the Zahn Innovation Center, which was a startup incubator in the CUNY system, where we interfaced with the National Science Foundation's I-Corps program, and we helped people take their ideas and their IP to market, okay? So that's where pretty much all of this comes from. Before that, I worked at Capgemini Consulting, digital transformation consultant for Fortune 100 companies, okay? So a lot of the stuff that I found was useful in startups, I learned in consulting, but I also learned from having run my own businesses. I've started five businesses. The first four were abject failures. The fifth one was a success, all right? And these are all the things I learned from falling flat on my face, okay? And when I didn't fall flat on my face, I was like, oh, that's a good idea, fantastic. And now I teach it to other people, okay? So the basic overview of the next 4 days, I'm going to give you a welcome and overview of the week. Then we're going to walk through frameworks, logic gateways, 5 why problem portfolio, customer persona, business model canvas, value prop canvas, differentiation, explaining your business, and a go-to-market. So why are you here? Maybe you're curious about startups. I find it's really interesting to teach entrepreneurship after a bust versus in the boom. In the boom, this room would be triple filled, all right? Before Silicon Valley Bank bust, before all of that, every single person would be like, oh my God, my future is being a startup founder. Now, it's a little bit less. The most successful startups are founded in a bust. Facebook, founded in a bust. Google, founded in a bust, okay? The monetary mechanics of a startup and people investing in you in a bust are very different from a boom. In a boom, money is irrational. You've got an idea, fantastic. You want to sell used socks online? That's a great idea. Here's $10 million. I have no idea how you're gonna do it, I don't care. But here's $10 million just so I can have a .com on my investment sheet, okay? In a bust cycle, how are you gonna get your customers? How are you gonna sell your customers? Do they want what you're gonna sell? They're all true business mechanics. So those startups are the ones that succeed because there is no room for failure. If you don't build what they want, they will not buy it and you're out of business, okay? It's significantly harder to get investment in these periods of time, but the value goes to those who can build, okay? Those who can't, so everybody in this room, you are at an advantage because you can actually build it. Where you're at a disadvantage is you have no idea how to do the business side of it. And if you can marry your building knowledge with a business knowledge so that you can at least talk to somebody who's an expert in finance, talk to somebody who's an expert in marketing, become a partner with them, you build it, they market and sell it, right? But you're able to have that conversation and able to talk intelligently with those people, okay? So who here is here to learn how to start a business? Raise your hand. Okay, wow, a lot of you, okay. What? Who here is here to learn how to start a business?
And how to end it.
Well, that happens, I've found, all by itself. You don't really need to teach that course. In a good way, you know, I actually had a colleague, really fascinating woman. She was running a hardware startup, and it was basically an IoT for learning. It was all computer-driven, RC cars. Really cool idea, but she never could quite get to market. And the challenge is nobody really talks about their failures, okay? So they don't give you that map on how to unravel it. I was talking to the, this was like 5 or 6 years ago, the head of innovation for the Belgian consulate. And he was asking me what's the difference between American students and Belgian students, or American startups and Belgian startups. What I found in European markets is that you guys are terrified of failure. I have failed abjectly 4 times. I wasted $20,000 of my uncle's money because I bought a fantastic office with amazing furniture and I had no clients. All right? Boom, I was out of business in 6 months. Right? Anywhere else that would be basically you'd be a cultural pariah. In the US, it's like, okay, all right, what did you learn from it, right? I suggest that if you treat everything like a test and a lesson, then when you fail, you still have gotten value out of it, okay? So if you're doing iterative testing across, it's agile, all right? Who here knows agile, lean methodology, agile? All right, so it's just really simple 4 steps, right? Understand, define, build, test. Do it all over again. It's the same thing. So when you fail, I learned, okay, wow, don't spend no money until you have customers. Right? That was the first lesson. Second business I ran, I had like 6, 7 customers, and they were all in the fashion and music industry. And we were building websites for them. Back in my day, I'm not going to use too many back in my days, but back in my day, I built websites, and I charged $30,000 to $200,000 US dollars to build a website. And I had 10 customers, okay? Problem is then September 11th happened, and then the dot-com bust happened, and nobody wanted to do websites. And all of a sudden, all 10 of my customers went away, and I realized 10 was not enough customers to have a stable business when something hit, right? So now I understand you need to have a much larger, never stop getting customers. And especially you want to be terrified of that one whale of a customer that eats your business. And if they go away, your business goes away, right? Third business, I started an advertising agency. My co-founder was an expert in tourism marketing in the industry. She was known all across the region for her expertise in tourism marketing. I knew how to run agencies, right? We worked 16, 17, 18 hours a day. We were doing fantastically well. We wrote the marketing plan for the Borough of Brooklyn, with the agency of record for American Museum of Moving Image. We were just doing really, really well. And then we fell in love. And then we got married. And then we got divorced. And there went that business. Don't date your co-founders, all right? Don't date the people. There's more than enough people outside of your business to date, okay? That was lesson 3, right? It seems like a stupid lesson. It was apparently a lesson I needed to learn, all right? So lesson 4, I all of a sudden I was like, I have the right to start a business. Up until then, I thought that like the entrepreneurship police were gonna be coming in. And they were gonna be telling me, wait, you don't have a right to start a business. Who told you you could start a business? You don't have a degree from here and here and here, and you haven't done this and this and this. You can't start a business. Get out, get out. I finally realized I had the right to start a business. That was the first successful business I had. Second thing, I built a business that made sense. I had control over how I made the income. It wasn't tied to my time. So all my agency work, I got paid for how many hours I worked. Software business, we built it once, we sold it 1 million times. There was no connection between the time we worked and the amount of money we could possibly make. Okay, and we were in control of making that money. This is why all those people on Facebook who are social media people, the people who are taking selfies and hashtag van life and all that, fundamental problem with their business is as soon as the Instagram algorithm changes, as soon as the YouTube monetization algorithm changes, they're out of business. They're not in control of how they make their money. And I learned those lessons and I started a software company. We sold it successfully, okay? One thing that I will talk about later is that we were not as successful as we could have been, okay? Because we didn't think through where we wanted to be. We were basically just pivoting and pivoting and pivoting and pivoting. So we were sitting there saying, oh, well, we created this site. We were doing websites, and then we wanted to do websites for catalogers. And what is a tool that we could use on the back end so we could create all these websites for catalogers very quickly? Oh, each one has an individual SKU. for their product, so how can we create a page for each SKU very quickly? Nobody wanted it. And then we went to a conference, we saw this thing called personalized URLs. And we're like, what? Wait, that's basically what we do. But these people are selling it to direct marketers and printers. So we called ourselves, we changed our name to Easy Pearl, started selling it to printers, we off like a rocket, okay? But we got to a point where we realized that our technology did not allow for compound Boolean logic, which means that we could not do the marketing automation that our little bitty competitors were doing. We were laughing at these competitors, but we realized we had a $3 million price tag to become competitive with them. Nobody else knew that, but we did, and we just didn't have the money to do that. We were dead in the water. We knew it, but nobody else did. Those competitors sold for hundreds of millions of dollars. We did not. Okay? That's fundamentally the difference of thinking through the problem that you're solving and thinking through the stages and testing it every single iteration and just flying by the seat of your pants and be like, you know what? We know what we need. We're going to build this. We're good. And being good with it. Okay? So how many people here are here to learn how to manage a product delivery within an enterprise setting? Because this will teach you that as well. So those of you who decide not to start a business and go work for an enterprise company, you better understand what the price of what you're selling is. You better understand how they're going to bring it to market. You better understand what the problem you're trying to solve with the technology you're building. You better understand what the customers who are buying this want and need. Not because you're going to be in charge of marketing, but because that way you can use all of your brains. I guarantee you there's not one person in here who isn't at least 10 to 12 times smarter than I am. All right? But if you come into a room and you don't understand what the customer wants, and you just start pounding away, we need LiDAR, we need this, we need that, and you don't understand what the customer needs, you don't understand what they want, I can't sell that. I don't care how cool you think it is. I don't care how cool everyone at this conference thinks whatever technology you're using is. If what you're building is not what they want and need, you're dead in the water. So you're able to use all of your brain power to think creatively about how to solve the problem from a technological perspective, okay? And that, by the way, is the difference between a career that goes like this and a career that goes like this, okay? That's the difference between a 10x. You guys ever heard of a 10x coder? Right, that's the difference, is that ability to understand holistically the problems you're solving, okay? I mean, there's a technical expertise to being a 10x coder, but understanding holistically the problems you're solving so that you're not churning away at something that's useless is the difference, okay? So you want to be able to holistically understand what the needs are of the project you're working on so you can engineer better solutions that take into account every stakeholder, okay? So I was doing a go-to-market for a business process. Anybody know what business process mapping is? There's software that does business process, it maps a business process. So usually they'll call it ERP or the business process, a BPM system. But basically you put all the things that are going to happen into this piece of software and it automates what's going on. We created one for the medical industry. And the Trojan horse was a tablet that sat next to your bed, which was language independent, so that no matter what language the patient spoke, they could still communicate with medical staff, okay? But what it allowed you to do from a business process side was route everything to where it needed to be. So if you ask me I'm the orderly, you ask me for a glass of water, right? But he's the doctor and he said, wait, you're hydrophobic, which means you're not allowed water for the next 32 hours. As an orderly in the old way, I need to go to the head nurse and report that, and she says, oh, let me look at the chart. No, the doctor said no water. He can't have water. Then you had to go back and be like, I'm sorry, right? This system cut all that off. But as a stakeholder, we never thought through the fact that the bosses in the hospital are the nurses. And we were basically killing off their ability to negotiate in a union setting, and we were killing off 2 out of every 5 nurses they could get rid of, okay? 3 out of every 5 orderlies they could get rid of, right? That's a great sales product to the chief executive officer of a hospital, but the people who are deciding it and giving the go-ahead to buy it were the nurses. And we were dead in the water, okay? Because we didn't think through the stakeholders. How do we create this so that, how do we create the same product that provides the same value but enfranchises the nurses? We would have had a winner, okay? Okay, why does a business fail or a product launch if you're in an enterprise? 92% of all startups fail. Regardless of whether it's in a bust or a boom cycle, 92% of them fail. If you want a well-paying job building somebody else's dream, go do that. If you want to build your own dream, it's a hard road. It is significantly harder for me to be the CEO than to get paid by somebody else to do this, okay? I am up all night trying to figure out how to pay my staff. I'm up all night trying to figure out how to get customers. I'm up all night thinking about the fact that we used to get this many customers, we're only getting this many customers. What the hell did we do wrong, right? But there are 4 main reasons why a startup fails. There's a lack of need for their product. There's a lack of market need, okay? They ran out of cash, right? And that's just poor financial management, all right? They didn't have the right team in place, or they were outcompeted, all right? What do all 4 of these have in common? Anybody?
Skills of someone in the company that doesn't have the skills. Someone has not the skills for finance, someone has the skills for marketing, another guy has the
Yes, yes, but I would say it's an order above that, right? Which is they didn't understand the problem they were trying to solve, and they didn't understand their customer. They didn't understand what their customer wanted and needed in that to solve that problem. So they didn't build a product that the market actually needed. They didn't understand how to build this in a way that it could be sold effectively, right? Your skill comment is really good in the ran out of cash, because more often than not, I find people, again, who are 10, 20 times smarter than me are making the dumbest mistakes about money, right? I ran into a team, they were doing a hardware team, they were doing a, anybody ride skateboards? Anybody? Okay, one skateboarder, only one skateboarder, wow, okay. Maybe it's just an American thing, but like, so what they built was a flashlight, basically headlights for underneath a longboard, right, a skateboard. Because when you're skateboarding at night, there were people getting hit by cars and people couldn't see you. So basically, it had an accelerometer, so it would tell you when you pivot to the left, it do a left turn light, right turn light, and it would have lights, right? I'm like, that is so cool. How are you guys doing? Like, well, we're in 4 stores. Like, my God, that's amazing. Great work. How many units are you selling? Oh, none. Well, why aren't you selling any units? Well, it cost us $120 to make it, and we're selling it for $60, so we can't afford to build it until we get an investment. I'm like, no, you're dead. Like, you got to figure out how to, if you're going to, what is the market, how much are they going to sell it for? If they're going to sell it, if they're willing to buy it for $60, right, then you have to sell it for 5x less. At least one-fifth of that needs to be the cost of building it. It cost them $60, which means they needed to sell it for $300. And nobody, I don't know about you, but I will not buy a $300 flashlight for the bottom of my skateboard, right? The market didn't need it, and they didn't understand their cash, right? And most of that was because they didn't have on their team somebody who understood, and they didn't understand the problem of the skateboard shops and the skateboarders, okay? They weren't really outcompeted in that situation. But that is another issue of not understanding the problem, so you're not building the right solution, and you don't know your customers well enough to be able to explain why you're better than your competitors. All right? Does that make sense so far? Yeah? You'll find very quickly this will start to map in your brain as a basic algorithm, as basic object-oriented programming. Like, you'll understand that it really is very simple. It's this leads to this leads to this. And you'll understand that very quickly. But what happens is when you unpack the complexity of each one of those subjects, there's a whole layer of knowledge that you need to understand underneath those. Okay, so we'll try to get to that. Okay, so today, day one, we're going to talk about foundational tools of entrepreneurship. Day two, we're going to talk about explaining your problem. Day three, we're going to talk about explaining your value proposition. And day four, we're going to talk about explaining your business. Okay? So today's class one, is about the foundational tools of entrepreneurship, the frameworks, the tools that you'll be using, so you have a basic understanding of this. That way, at least 10% of you are never coming back. At least you have these tools in your toolkit. All right? If you do come back, we'll teach you how to use these to actually build out a business case. So you can rapidly, if you want to apply to Y, who wants to apply to Y Combinator? Does anybody know who Y Combinator is? Okay. Y Combinator is the most important accelerator in the world. Okay? The majority of people who get into Y Combinator become Airbnb. Okay? That's the delta of what happens when you go into Y Combinator. But even if you don't go into Y Combinator, you go into 500 startups, you go to Techstars, or you go to a local European accelerator, you're going to need a pitch. You're going to need a business case as to what you're doing, okay? Your business case is your presentation of what you're actually doing. It's not your promise. It's not Shark Tank. I don't know if they have Shark Tank here in the UK? You guys watch that? It's not Shark Tank, where you just sit there and in 5 seconds you're like, we got this great thing. We got these shoes that go squeaky, squeaky, squeaky. $500,000, that's amazing, great. And they walk away and they hug, right? That's not how it happens, all right? There is an agonizing series of presentations, and they're all about what you're actually doing as a company, all right? What you're actually building. So it's actually very easy, if you're following this structure, to create the output to present to an investor, all right? But the point is you should be able to invest. And if you're going into enterprise, you should be able to use these tools to go in and create a business case for a product you want to build within their ecosystem, okay? So your mission in class one is to have a firm and usable understanding of the frameworks and tools used by successful entrepreneurs to strategize and execute at startup speed. Do you accept that mission? I can't hear you. Do you accept that mission? Yes. A lot of you in the back didn't say anything. Don't think I can't see you. I'm old, but I'm not that old. Do you guys all accept that mission? Yes. All right. My promise to you is that I'm going to make sure that you're going to be able to use the industry-leading entrepreneurial frameworks to rapidly strategize. So I'm not going to lecture you. I'm not going to give you a bunch of images. We're going to try to make this as executional as possible. And where, if you want to, you lean in, try to get you to do the actual work so that you can try this out while you're here, right? And create a business pitch, right? Out of very simple problem, talk to 10 people at this conference. What do they have that problem? What do they want and need of that problem? Create a customer persona out of that. Create a product roadmap. Create a go-to-market. Create a base. Figure out how much it would cost to build that. You've got a pitch. Done. Okay? That's what we're going to try to do. So I'm going to teach you how to use this. I'm not going to just talk at you. I'm really going to try to help you walk away with the actual tools so that you can do this. Okay? Does that sound like a fair agreement? Cool. All right, frameworks. Who's familiar with TOGAF? Who here is in, oh, thank you, God, I got very concerned for the youth of today. Who here is in enterprise architecture or interested in enterprise architecture? Nobody? Nobody's in architecture? No? Okay, that might be why. So I used to do technology transformation, and we would use a TOGAF, and a TOGAF is a basic framework for keeping all of the players on the map. Okay, it's an architecture framework, right? It's a map. It provides the methods and tools for assisting in the acceptance, production, use, and maintenance of an enterprise architecture. And it's based on an iterative process. So basically, you can start at a low fidelity, and as you get more information, add information, make it more clean, make it more like, oh, this area, we've accepted it. It is done. It's accepted. Okay. By the way, I added TOGAF in, so it's not in your printed work. Sorry. But after I heard the keynote, I was like, crap, I should probably explain what TOGAF is. So I put it in like literally at 3:45. But basically, and this is out of the open group. So if anybody wants to go to the open group, take a picture of this, or The QR code will take you to the website. So this is a TOGAF architecture, okay? So what you have here are the different areas of the system as it pertains all the way down to the metal. From the metal all the way to the customer. Okay, you guys know what the metal is? Like the actual servers. Like what are the servers made of? Where are the servers? What are they doing, right? That's the metal, okay? All the way to the customer, okay? So each one of these areas, you have architecture realization. What are the capabilities that it needs to have, right? What are the standards in the implementation governance? So you might not come up with this, but somebody on your team is going to need to agree on the standards because you're going to sign a contract with the client when you implement something, right? So all of these will be filled in, and usually it's a clickable link to a 100-page PDF that explains all the standards, all the guidelines, right? All the data, how's the data handled? What does the application look like? There's the technology architecture, right? This part right here, the business architecture, is what we're going to be talking about. But the reason why I wanted to show you this is I wanted to show you that it is not, you're not now going to go take an MBA and forget software, right? Forget computers. No, now you're going to be a business guy. You're going to wear a nice Brooks Brothers suit. No, this is part of the entire TOGAF, and it needs to be because you need to understand how it all works. You need to understand what the drivers of this project are, what are the goals, the objectives, and how it's going to be how success is going to be measured. You need to understand what the organization looks like and who the actors are and their roles that are interacting with this product, okay? The behavior, you need to understand the business, services, contracts, and service qualities, the processes, events, control products, the functions, business capabilities, course of action, and value streams. It's the behavior of how it's going to be interacting with their business. Right? So that you can find out, oh crap, we probably shouldn't do it this way because it will invalidate X in the TOGAF, okay? But this way, you have significantly less project failure, right? Because what you're doing is everybody who's on the team is sitting there and putting that in there. And as long as you click on that link and you actually read the boring ass 100-page standard document that somebody wrote, then you'll understand it, right? And everything's in here. But the fidelity starts really low. The standards are that we're just going to have 99.99% uptime and some other stuff to be decided later. And then slowly it evolves into a 100-page document, right? But you start at very low fidelity. You fill these little blocks in, and you're good to go. But again, we're focused on the business architecture for this course, okay? The way that you work with the business architecture is the business model canvas, okay? So the business model canvas is a standard architecture, just like TOGAF, but for startups, okay? And what it allows you to do is with low fidelity, walk through a business plan and very clearly understand how all the pieces go and test your hypothesis. In the TOGAF, you're testing a hypothesis. You're testing it, and then you finalize. You're showing you're creating a test. You're testing it. You're putting the answer to those tests in each one of these, right? Same thing here, right? So you're going to have somebody who's going to think through the value propositions, the customer relationships, the channels, how you're going to make money, how you're going to spend money, all of that, okay? But again, it starts at low fidelity and it goes to high fidelity, okay? So before I move forward, any questions so far on TOGAF? No? Yes?
What do you mean with low and high fidelity here?
Say again?
What do you mean with low and high fidelity?
Low fidelity would be a wireframe drawing of what the user interface would look like a drawing on a piece of paper. High fidelity would be the actual design. So then there's layers of fidelity. So you don't want to code an entire interface and be like, is this what you're talking about? Like, no. Are you saying that you want the user's photo and their account page to be here? No, you want to write? Okay, well, you can do that with pencil, right? You can do that on a whiteboard. That's a very low fidelity. And when you get everyone to agree what that basic, ugly wireframe looks like, then you put some images in it. Is this what you're looking like? Then you start creating the sprites out of those. You guys know sprites? All right, in gaming, it comes from gaming. Sprites are things that are used over and over and over again, right? So like a little menu, the menu square, right? In Mario Brothers, the little mushrooms, right? Those are sprites. So when you're creating a user interface, you're going to create these things that are going to be reusable. But it's a pain in the ass to create them, so you want to make sure that you've got the basic understanding of what what the things you need to build are, and then how many of those can be created with reusable sprites versus one-use only graphics, okay? Okay, so business model canvas, right? So I have a QR code at the end of this if you guys want to download this as a PDF, but I also suggest you just Google it. It's like the number one, it's the number one answer for business model canvas. Who'd have thunk it, right? So how do you use this? All right, so you start in the middle, right? Has anybody ever worked service? Ever worked as a waiter or back of a restaurant as like cleaning dishes or as a chef? Anything like that? Anybody? One person, two, three, okay, cool. So the front of the house in a restaurant is everything that's customer facing, okay? So it is from the kitchen, from the door of the kitchen to the door of the restaurant, right? Back of the house is everything that happens in order to create that value which is sent out and provided to the customer, right? The customer has no idea what's going on in the kitchen. They just want everything, okay? So you have front of house, back of house. What the front of the house cost you, what the back of the house cost you. And this is the entire business. Does that make sense? So you start in the middle and you figure out what is the value you're providing, okay? What is the job you are doing for them, all right? So somebody buys who here eats McDonald's? Right? So if you buy a thing of French fries, what is the job you're trying to do? You had a job that you're trying to get done, and you went to McDonald's to have them do that job for you. What is that job?
Oh, like frying the potatoes and like shredding them.
Closer to the bone. You want to be fed, right? You went to get something to eat, and you need something to eat. You want it to be tasty, and you want it to be cheap and fast. Okay, that's a value proposition. All right, want plus need minus objection. Okay. That's the value proposition in the middle. You're providing a value for money. If somebody will not give you money, it's because they don't see that you're giving value. Okay? So you got to figure out how to get, and the very interesting thing is you're seeing all of these companies that were created in the heyday of free money, now Twitter, trying to charge money, Facebook, trying to charge money, right? People are because they're trying to charge money for stuff because if it's not providing value, like Facebook, you're not the customer. The advertiser is the customer. You're the product. They're providing value by harvesting your data without your permission. Okay? And now they're getting in trouble for it, and they got to figure out how to do this without doing that. So now they're going to start charging. All right? And they got to figure out whether their service is worth the value that you want. Okay? Questions so far? Okay. So the next thing you look at, because people actually usually think, oh, I go right here. No, go here, right? Who do you help? Right? So you're on an island, and now there's an island which is your customers, right? Who are you helping? All right? In the Facebook example, who's Facebook helping? Not you. They're helping advertisers. They're doing that by figuring out a way to keep you engaged. All right? You're the product. All right? You're on a hamster wheel, and they're selling the energy from you running on that hamster wheel. Okay? Not to crap on Facebook too much, but just so you understand that concept. Now you got to be really crystal clear, because if everybody on your team doesn't agree who the customer is, you'll find that you've been arguing like knockdown, drag-out brawls for 3 months because you think that the customer is enterprise IT managers, and he thinks the customer is mothers with 3 kids. And you're like, how did you think that? We're selling an IT product. No, but it's got to blah, blah, blah. Like, you got to make sure you're on the same page. Most teams fail because they don't agree on the problem they're solving. They don't agree on who the customer is. They don't understand that, okay? So then you have 2 islands. Now you've got to build a bridge. What is your distribution channel to get that value to the customer, okay? So what does that bridge look like? How do you transfer that value to them, all right? And how do you interact? And what is the relationship back with them, right? Is it a transactional? Is it a brand as a service? Is it a one-time buy only? Is it a daily buy? Are you subscribing? What is the relationship? So you're providing value on who uses Basecamp or Trello. Okay, so Trello is providing value, a tool to allow you to manage your projects, right? They provide it to you via the internet, right? And it's free unless you buy some of the certain packages, right? But what they do is they get you hooked in to the point where you're now using it, and now you got to get to the next level, and that's got to be paid for. And hopefully you know how to use it so well that your boss hired you because you know Trello, and he or she pays for the enterprise level contract. Okay? You got to understand how that happens, that entire cycle of the front of the house. And then you got to figure out, I'll get to that in a second. Okay? And then you're going to figure out how much money are you going to make from this. All right? This is just how much you can charge for it. It's not margin, it's not profit. It is, we can afford to charge $120. We can try to make it simple. We're going to afford to charge $100. Okay? Well, I'll tell you later on, if you guys stick around, it cannot cost you more than 1/5 of that price point to build it. If you got a multiple of 5. Cost of goods sold, how much it costs you to acquire the customer, the logistics of your team, like your offices, your computers, your salaries, your taxes, your insurance, all that crap, your R&D for the next iteration of what you're building, and your war chest in case something awful happens. And every single startup founder I talk to says, well, that's really, can I get rid of one of them? Like, sure. How do you want to go out of business? Do you want to not be able to afford, like the flashlight guys, be able to afford to build your product? Do you want to not have customers? All right? Do you want to have all your good staff leave because you can't afford to pay them? Do you want to uncover a problem in the industry and then have some whip-smart kid come behind you and steal your business because they created the next version of it? Do you want to get good enough that somebody decides to sue you and you can't defend yourself? Those are the ways you go out of business, okay? So that 5X is your floor of your business. So understanding what you can charge for it and then understanding how much it costs you to build that, you very quickly, in a weekend, you can figure out, oh crap, we don't have a business. We can't do this. Walk away. What was the pain? 2 pizzas and a gallon of coffee? Done. Much better than 2 years. All that money I made in selling my business, I started Huntobot version 1. It was a business process mapping and automation program with a just-in-time inventory system on the back end and a mobile app, right? This was 2014, right? I brought it to small business, and every single one of them was like, yeah, I don't want that. I'm like, what do you mean? No, do you understand? I'm a Capgemini consultant. I've started 4 businesses. I know what you need. He's like, no, I don't want that. I run a pizza shop. Why would I want to know the ROI of my pizza sauce? I don't need any of this. Do you have I just need an easy button that will get me customers. That's all he needed. I didn't understand that. I spent all of my, well, not all of my money, but a large chunk of my money building version 1, out of business. Okay? That's having gone through this and not having the hubris of thinking I knew better, I could have saved myself a lot of pain and suffering and treasure. Okay, so how do you do it, right? How do you do the key activities to provide that value, okay? And what are the things that you need to provide that? So in a hardware business, it would be, we need to have a design for manufacturing schematic. We need to have a contract with the factory in Shenzhen, and we need to have engineers who are creating versions 1, 2, and 3, right? And we need to have somebody creating the circuit boards, right? What do you need? You need These are like literally the punch list that you would go to Home Depot to buy, or you would like literally we need these circuit boards, we need this amount of plastic for the injection molders, we need so forth and so on. On the software side, usually it's AWS credits, right? What do you need? But your coders will be your resource, okay? And you have to make a decision whether you're going to be coding open source or not, whether you're going to be using a GitHub or doing a stealth startup, right? And what are those activities? And you're weighing that, right? So who are the key partners who will help you? So in the hardware example, you'd have a factory in Shenzhen building it, right? You would have a circuit board designer, maybe a contractor who's building it. You have vendors who are providing the raw materials, right? Maybe you're building a hardware device with a battery. You're not a battery guy. Who cares? You just buy the battery off the shelf. The special sauce is the circuit board, which allows you to test the humidity of the soil and communicate and test the humidity of the air and communicate over the internet, find out whether it's going to rain, and then trigger a watering thing. None of that requires the batteries and the special sauce. Just get one off the shelf, okay? So you'll figure out what each one of those are, and then you figure out how much that costs, all right? You got a business plan. And each one of these is a low fidelity test. It should happen in a weekend. Do we think that the value we're providing is we're watering their garden without their interference? Do we think our customers are stay-at-home, are people at home who want to get really into gardening? Do we think that we can create this with off-the-shelf technology except for the little circuit board we're going to create? Or can we just use an Arduino and just call it a day and just make the form factor so nice that what we're really getting, what our made competition or competitive advantage is the design, okay? You can figure all that out very quickly and then start executing, okay? Questions, concerns, confusions? Yes?
Sometimes you don't know the answer of some of those questions when you are starting.
Go find out. But you at least know that you have the question, right? So you put that question here. I don't know what it's going to cost. Yeah. All right, well, what is it? Who would I buy it from? What am I going to be buying? What are the services? What are we going to be doing with this stuff? That gives you your list of That gives you your list of stuff to buy, right? And now you have your cost. Like, part of this is how much is your salary? I can't tell you how many startup founders are like, well, I won't take a salary. Yeah, anybody here married? All right, try going to your wife and saying, or your husband saying, you know what, I'm gonna not make any money at all for the next 2 years. Is that okay? Yeah, no. Believe me, I know personally, no, it does not fly, okay? So you gotta understand all those. And even if it does for you, your best employee will walk away, okay? It's never the worst. The worst doesn't have another option. They'll stick around. The best one always leaves, and then you're really in a hole. Okay. So do you guys understand basically the business model? Yes?
Is this primarily just like a mental model for yourself, or does it make sense to lay out something like this in your pitch deck?
I would never use this. This would showcase you as a rube in like 5 minutes. It's an internal tool that you would use as a document that you would use to capture all your findings and communicate with your teams. You're all on the same page, so that you can test this hypothesis and get all this information, and then walk away and do your day job. And the next weekend you come back and do this, right? And you can go through all this, and you can you put that in a Google folder, and then you start building stuff. And 3 months later, you all look at this, does all of this make sense, or has any of this changed? Because what's beautiful about it is the low fidelity leads to a lack of treasuring it. There's an old story about farmer who had, in the old days, you had a farm, you had cats on your farm who would get rid of the mice. So you needed that cat. but you couldn't afford to feed 35 cats, right? So what they would do is when the cat had kittens, they'd find the best kitten, the most robust kitten that had the best chance of living, and they keep that one, and the rest they tie in a sack, put a stone in it, tie in a sack, and throw in the river. Drown their kittens, okay? Those are adorable kittens. How many of you are horrified of that story? That's the same emotion you're going to have about your ideas. All right? You've got to get rid of them. You've got to be able to be like, that was a bad idea. Cool, done. We figured out it was a bad idea. Let's move on. Don't care about them. You need to be able to drown your kittens. Low fidelity allows that. High fidelity. I built the app. I talked to 1,000 small business owners before I finally was like, okay, maybe this is a bad idea. All right? Because they built the entire thing. Right? So low fidelity, good, right? And testing and learning and failing and learning from the test, or learning from the failure. Okay. So I wanted to give you an example of this with LinkedIn. Okay, so this is LinkedIn's business model canvas. So this was LinkedIn in, I don't remember when, but back in the day when I first signed up. This is the screenshot I took. Okay? And this, by the way, was high-end design at the time. This is really slick, all right? But basically, all they're allowing you to do is create a network of your contacts. It's basically like a Rolodex for your contacts, okay? How many people know about LinkedIn? Does anybody not know what LinkedIn is before? Everybody knows LinkedIn? Okay, good. Okay, cool. Be really awful if I'm explaining LinkedIn. Everyone's like, I don't know what that is. Okay. So this is that value proposition laid out in the business model camp. So the value proposition is going to manage professional identity and build professional networks. So basically, we allowed you to put your resume up and have your Rolodex. That's it. That's all it really allowed you to do, right? Customer segment was everybody who's on the internet, which at the time was not everybody. It was a small portion of the population. So it was mostly marketing people, it was mostly business people, and it was mostly tech people, okay? But it's a very small segment. So it's internet users. They're not trying to target mom and pa in Kansas who not even sure whether the internet is a fad, right? Believe me, I talked to the head of marketing at Circuit City, the major electronics salesperson, in 2000, tried to sell him online advertising. He laughed at me and said the internet was a fad. I told him I'd call him back in 6 months. And he's like, I'm not going to change my mind. I was like, no, but you won't be here anymore. All right. But the point is, there were people who really were not interested in the internet. That's a weird thing where people like, I don't understand. That's weird. Okay. The way they interact with them is via LinkedIn, website, and mobile apps. Okay? And the relationship is same side and network effects. Okay? Does that make sense? So then their key partners were data centers, right? And the key activities were platform development, and the key resources were the LinkedIn platform, because as they built it, it provided more, you got network effect, which created more and more value, okay? So the way, there was revenue streams, they had no revenue. This was a pre-.com, where basically it was, are people on your website? Here's $10 million. Right? A lot of those companies went by the wayside, but this was created by one of the PayPal mafia. So they gave him more money, right? Until he got to a point where he started to be able to figure out how to monetize it, okay? Their cost structure was web hosting and platform development. That's the only two things they were paying for, because they weren't selling anything, so there's no salespeople, right? So this is what, so when they created their P&L, this is what their costs were, okay? Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, then this was a couple years later, right? Now they're getting a little bit fancier. So now it's a job board. So you can identify the right talent, right? So they got a secondary customer, recruiters, right? So they got one more revenue stream, hiring solutions. They're charging now for hiring solutions, okay? Same cost structure, key resources are the same. Platform development, data center, all of this, back of house is all the same, okay? Then we go to the next step. Now, same value prop. Channels, now they're going into field sales. Okay, same customers, but they have multiple channels now. And now they have premium subscriptions. So they have another revenue stream, right? But now they got a new cost structure, marketing and sales. Same key resources, same key activities, same key partners. Now we go to the next part, LinkedIn marketing solutions. This is why your LinkedIn feed is now all ads, because they realize now they've got ability to help you reach the target audience. B2B marketing and sales is a huge market. They got a new customer segment, advertising and marketing. Same channels, same customer relationships, same revenue streams. Cost structure is the same, key resources, key activities, key partners. But they've opened up another customer segment so they can make more money, okay? So then we go to LinkedIn Learning. Now, we'll help you we'll help you increase your professional skills. All right, they bought Lynda, which was a e-learning company. Same customer segments, because they're basically selling the professional skills to internet users. And same channels, same customer relationships, same revenue streams, same cost structure, everything's changed, but they have another value proposition. What they're doing, you'll see, is that this was the internet users, which increases engagement for the free offering, which allows them to charge more for the hiring solutions. And so they've increased the value by increasing the engagement. When you're building something, there are only 4 things that you are going to build in a product. All right? It's a really easy acronym to remember, because it's like a American, really annoying American tourist. America! All right? AMER. You're building a feature that acquires customers. You're building a feature that monetizes customers. You're building a feature that engages customers, or you're creating a feature that retains customers. You're not doing anything else that doesn't lead to one of those 4 things. Done. Okay? So what they're doing here is they're doing something that increases the value of their free offers so that they can sell their advertising and their hiring solutions. Okay? All right. So let's talk about transformation maps. So this doesn't help, that business model canvas doesn't help if it doesn't turn into an actual product. So I have a lecture I give on execution, and one of the things I like to tell everybody is you have the honor of being lectured to by the inventor of Google Glass. I invented Google Glass in 2001. I have it in my notebook. I designed Google Glass in my notebook. Why am I not famous? Because I did nothing with that information. I wrote it in my notebook. I thought it was a really cool idea, and then I didn't do anything about it, and a bunch of really smart people actually executed on it and did it. All right? The difference between a fever dream and being successful is execution. Okay? You got to map actionable customer value. Okay? So in consulting and business school, they'll talk about something called a transformation map. Okay? It's basically you have current state and you have future state. What are the different streams of projects that you use to get there? Okay? And there's be phases of those projects. So you use this transformation map to align usually leadership and finance with the different teams, so the operations team knows what they need to do. They understand the value of, we have to do this to unlock this, right? Usually this is a simple one, but I would usually do a rationalized transformation map where I would explain, you can't do this until you do these 2. These 2 allow you to do this. This allows 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 you to do this. And that way you can see the dependencies of the projects. Because each one of these is an entire project that somebody's maybe charging $150,000 to do, okay? But it allows you to rationalize that across the entire team. So how do you create a T map or transformation map? You have the organization current state. Okay, this is a short statement about where you are today, and it's typically represented in the bottom left-hand corner. It's called current state, usually. Where are we today? What does today look like? right? Sometimes there'll be a SWOT analysis. You guys know SWOT analysis? Right, so it'll be a SWOT analysis. Sometimes it's not a SWOT analysis. It'll just be like, right now, we suck at IT, and we would like to not suck at IT, right? Like, it can be as simple as that, and then you dig in deeper into what needs to happen for that to change, okay? Then you have the organization future state or the transformation goal. All right, this is a short statement about where you want to be ideally, quantifiable in terms of value, volume, and time. We want to not suck at IT is not quantifiable. It's not a SMART goal. Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. All right? You need to, it has to be SMART. Otherwise, it's not going to get done. Right? It's one of the things I've learned about projects is that if it's not SMART, it does not get done. I don't care. If somebody walks into my office and says, we want to do X, Y, Z, it better be SMART. And if it's not, I'm like, no, it's not going to get done. I'm sorry. You've got to explain to me how it's going to get done and what we're going to achieve with this, okay? Then you need the timelines or phases, okay? These are, again, quantifiable, time-bound. Phases or blocks in which you want to, for example, a 2-phase plan could be split into 2 blocks in 6 months, if 12 months in total is the entire plan, or 3 months. But specifically, this is how long this is going to take. So we know if this project is not done in 6 months, we're behind schedule. We can see it without digging into a Microsoft project document or a Trello board. You can very, very easily see that, okay? And then you have the work streams, all right? So you have operations, you have design and transition, you have enterprise information management, service management. These are just the ones for this project. But they would be whatever the teams are that need to happen in order to achieve that project, okay? So again, these are not like, go get the coffee, copy all the list of all of the stuff. No, each one of these is a giant project to get to that future state, okay? And a stream like that, to build this, we would charge $450,000 easily to create this, okay? To actually implement on that, that'd be a $10 million project, okay? That's the difference between you freelancing on Fiverr without any of these documents for tens of dollars, okay? It's a fundamentally different story, okay? Okay, so, and then business outcomes. So you want to understand what is achieved by this project. How do we know that it has been, what is the value of that individual project, and how do we know it's done and done successfully? Right, it's got to be SMART, right? So you got to understand the actual outcomes of each one of these individual projects. Because if all of these projects have zero monetary outcome until you get to this future state, I'll tell you right now, CEO is not going to authorize that project. It's way too much money out without any revenue coming in or any canaries in the coal mine telling you what is working or not working, okay? All right, so that is and then you want to track progress, okay? Letting everyone know where we are. So usually as we're walking through this would be the cover sheet of a project presentation, and these would be green, yellow, or red, indicating stoplight, right? Green, it's good to go. Everything's good. Yellow, there's something wrong that we need to explain why it's going on, or something you guys are doing that is impacting the delivery of this project. Or red, we're in deep trouble. We need to fix this, okay? And that, at a very high level, clear, understood, because this isn't the entire project architecture. It's a very high-level document, okay? All right, so, I think I repeated this, okay. I don't use a TMAP. I found a TMAP to be very frustrating. I found a TMAP to not explain dependencies. I found a TMAP in a startup environment to not be helpful. I use a bullseye, okay? The bullseye TMAP is a more holistic transformation map. It includes the statements of the current state in the orange and the future state in the gray, but it allows you to rationalize work streams across different phases and and departments, okay? So day 0, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, phase 5, right? I'll get to what each one of those are. So this is one that I give to every single one of my teams. Product business, right? Firmware, hardware, firmware for a hardware team, okay? Boom, right? Marketing, sales, finance, org. Okay, what are you building from a hardware perspective, from a firmware perspective? Who do you need to build it? How much money do you need to build it? How many sales do you expect to make for how much money? And what marketing do you need to do to get those customers? Done, okay? Well, we eventually are going to have an AI, ChatGPT competitor that's embedded in, that's over here. So do not hire a $350,000 AI engineer here. Hire him here. And figure out how you're going to make the money by making the sales and doing the marketing to get the sales, to get the money to get that person at that point, okay? Everything unlocks. It's like a video game. You have to do everything in this circle to get out to the next circle. You have to do everything in this circle to get to the next circle. Everything in this circle allows you to get to the next level. You can't build this without the team, and you can't do that team without the money. You can't get that money unless you make the sales. You can't get the sales unless you do the marketing. And you can't do the marketing unless the product, this product, is something that can be marketed effectively, okay? Okay, so you were here. This is what I was explaining before. So, okay, so this is I usually use this for non-software or non-hardware businesses, where it's just a straight. You're usually providing a service of some sort. I do this for nonprofits. This is usually hardware, firmware. This is what I usually use for software. Acquisition, monetization, engagement, retention, database, right? Structure, so forth, okay? Does that make sense? So you can use all that, and you can focus on this, but you're gonna have somebody thinking about this bottom half because you're building something because you wanna make money, okay? Unless you wanna go open source, which is great, fantastic, make the world better, I believe in that, but your landlord is not open source, all right? So you gotta figure out how to make that money. Okay? All right, products on the top, businesses on the bottom. Okay, so if you look at that LinkedIn example, this is the product roadmap for the client. This is stage 1, which is the essential, important stuff right here, right? So we create a value proposition out of that. Want plus need minus objection equals value prop, and we put it into the first ring, right? Second level, that's the second level right there. We create a value proposition out of that. We put it into the second ring or third ring, okay? Third ring. All right. You now have a product roadmap because each one of these is a story, and that's an epic. You now have all the basic understanding of what needs to be built. Okay, yes?
You are in a context where you made a plan from the start and you execute the plan.
Yeah. So this is your project. You've done this pre. Yeah. This is the roadmap before you built.
But what if practically you need some feedback of the reality?
Yeah.
You have an idea, and so you need some feedback of the reality to know the right.
But you want to go to China, right? So you plan to go to China, and then you take this first step, and you test all your hypotheses. Like, crap, it's not specifically China. We need to go to Shenzhen, not just China in general. Okay, so we're refining it. Go to the next step. Actually, everything's changed. It's not Shenzhen, it's Vietnam. All right. But what you do is you plan all this out, and usually I'll do this every 3 months we'll walk through. So each one of these is about 3 months, and you do the entire cycle, and then you revise it.
It's a doable plan. It's
Yeah.
a doable plan.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You make it doable, but you're not obliged to execute.
Exactly,
it.
exactly.
That's not a contract, but it's
Yeah.
a direction.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It could be a contract, but
Yeah.
what ends up happening is, I don't remember who said it, but
You refine
you're-
every stage.
yeah, when your plan hits the battlefield, it gets torn up. All right, but you at least have an idea where you think you want to go, and then you realize, no, absolutely not. That's not at all. We need to change something, blah, 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 blah. So then the cross dependencies, sorry, you got the marketing, sales, finance, and organization. So for that phase one, we need to do 10K Facebook ads at $400 for 10,000 Facebook ads. That's going to get us 1,000 units sold at $50. It's going to cost us $500 to make it. We're going to make a revenue. That's all the money we're going to make, $50,000. I can't read that on here. We need 2 staff, marketing, and a software programmer. Done. Okay? So basically that is everything you need to create that. Once you create that, you now have $50,000 to get to phase 2. And that opens the door for the next stage, okay? But usually when you're creating this,
staging growth of the company. Then.
yeah. Usually when you're building this out, this is a milestone. So usually what I'll do is I'll do this in reverse, but you can do it this way. Like basically, what are the metrics you need to make to get a seed investment? And this is a plan to get to that seed investment. So you need the metric. You need X amount of units sold. You need X amount of monthly recurring revenue. You need X amount of engagement on the platform, right? And we can do it with these people, and we can hit all those numbers, and then we'll get our investment, and then we create a new plan to hit our metrics of getting an angel investor, okay? So seed investor would give me 100,000, angel investor would give me 3 mil, and then we do another one to get from 3 mil to our A round of 100 mil or 50 mil investment. And then we do another one to get to our B round of 1.5 bill, right? A billion, I'm sorry. And then we're in our B round. Now we're going into our IPO, all right? So what are the metrics we need to go public? And what is the plan to get to that point to go public? That's how this works, okay? But you wouldn't have this be like seed round, angel round. That's way too much fidelity. It's not needed, and it will be wrong in 3 months, and it's a waste of time. Okay, so just focus on the 6 months that you're going to dedicate to this to get this to a seed investor. Okay? Okay. So I want to talk to you about the importance of the value of double-sided funnels, okay? So the company side value of a bullseye is you've built something that you can sell. Fantastic. Somebody will give you money for it. Wow, amazing. Next step, you want to make profit selling it, all right? Believe it or not, this is a glass ceiling most startups don't get past. They can't sell it, right? That's stage 1. Stage 2, you start to make a profit at it. And now you can start deciding all that money, are we going to hire more people so we have more marketers, more salespeople? We're going to hire more coders to build more product. What are we going to do? We're going to open up a new facility in this city or that city. Now you have options, right? Then you have scalable sales. So now we can start all we need to do is throw people at it or throw money at it, and it'll expand. We just need to put gasoline on the fire. The fire is going, we need to put gasoline on it, all right? And then you're going to increase the profit. You're going to do that by lowering the cost to acquire a customer, lowering the cost of goods sold, increasing the customer lifetime value. There's all these levers you pull in your business to figure that out. You might figure out a way to engineer this so that it's cheaper or that it's more valuable for the same cost. Or you might get smarter at marketing to them. Or you might have better brand equity in the market. People know you and are willing to buy your product, right? That sort of thing, All right, so you're increasing your profit. And then you get into market dominance. If somebody wants it, they're buying from you. Done, okay? That's pure value for the company. Nobody else matters, right? That's one side of the funnel of innovation, all right? Then you have cross-sector dominance where you're selling in multiple sectors. So like Google is digging into healthcare and into education, and Amazon is digging into pharmacy. Recently, they were just bookstores, an online bookstore. Now they're freaking everything, right? This is this cross-sector dominance where you become a platform, right? The customer value ignores any value to the company and is all about building the value for the customer. Nothing about how you're going to get value from it as a company. It's how does the customer get that value, right? So what does this look like, right? Do you guys have payday loans here? Okay, so a payday loan in the U.S. is you're a day laborer, you work at McDonald's, whatever it is, right? And you get a base level paycheck, right? You get your paycheck, and crap, you got to pay your Verizon bill, all right, or your T-Mobile bill. You got to pay your gas bill. So, or your car broke down and you got to get it fixed. You go to a payday loan store and you give them your check, and they use it as collateral. All right. So they will give you a loan that if you pay it off within this amount of time is reasonable. If you do not, it's usury. It's like 40% interest, and it becomes impossible to get out of that. And most people do not make that payment on time, and it is incredibly profitable for the banks. One of the reasons why I got out of consulting is I kept being tagged to go to financial institutions and set up payday loans, and I'm like, this is like evil incarnate. I don't understand, right? So it's due on your next payday. It's a small dollar amount. It's better for one-time emergencies. Short-term, high interest rate, no credit requirements. So anybody who's got bad credits or anybody who's undocumented, good job. They can get their money, right? Seems like a good idea. But they get a $300 amount of the loan plus $45 of projected interest, an additional $45 payment if you don't repay the loan after 2 weeks. Within 1 month, you will have paid $90 for a $300 loan. In 2 months, it would cost you $180 for a $300 loan. In 6 months, it would cost you $1,080 for a $300 loan, okay? In 1 year, it costs you $2,160 for a $300 loan. And people get trapped into this cycle, okay? This is so profitable that this is the amount of people amount of credit unions that were implementing them. It was just going through the roof, okay? But then people started to really complain, and it got to a point where everybody hated it except the banks. Everybody hated it. And people were really like losing their houses. They were losing their jobs. They were losing their lives. They were like really, really, really bad. So finally, government stepped in and made it illegal, okay? So, so what ended up happening is they ended up regulating out. So usually the system will correct and not to your advantage, okay, if it's a one side. But I want you guys to understand the concept of something that is of value enough to get them hooked, but is really not of beneficial value to the customer. It's of extreme value to the banks, okay? Sorry. So this was all, you guys all familiar with the New York Times? Okay. At a certain point in time, people stopped reading the New York Times. They stopped reading the paper magazine. They started going online for their news. And they're trying to figure out how to work with that. So what they ended up doing is they ended up creating NewYorkTimes.com. And everybody was doing it for free, so they did it for free because they didn't know how to do it. This is one of my first jobs, was helping a magazine navigate whether to charge or not. And they put a paywall day one. You had to pay in order to get online. You couldn't get, nothing on there was of any value that you would get if you weren't a magazine subscriber. So that was real wisdom of the CEO of the company I was working at. Because New York Times did not have that wisdom. And what ended up happening is this was their gross annual revenue in 2005 to 2016. and then 2007, 2008, and then all of a sudden it started dropping. So these are advertising revenue. This is circulation revenue, so the cost of buying the magazine. This is the ads in the newspaper, and this is other revenue. And what ended up happening is it started getting squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. It became more and more of advertising revenue and of circulation revenue, and the advertising revenue was going through the floor because nobody was buying the actual newspaper. And they trained everybody that the news was free. It used to be you paid $1.50 for the newspaper. Now you can get it for free. Why would you pay $1.50? Like, I love the New York Times. I do not pay for a New York Times subscription, and that's 2023. Okay, so at the same time, Craigslist revenue. Everybody use Craigslist? You know Craigslist? It's like an online. Classified section. Okay, so all the ads that would be in the back of the magazines went to Craigslist in the US, okay? And they were just eating their advertising lunch. And the ad revenue for all US newspapers just went through the friggin' floor, while Google and Facebook ad revenue went through the roof, okay? And so they ate all of their ad revenue, and less and less people were buying a physical newspaper, so they were losing their circulation revenue. They couldn't figure out what they were going to do. So they had to figure out whether their stock price was going through the floor. And they instituted a paywall system. And once I know the people who were on that team, and it was like 2 or 3 fits and starts before they got that working. But once it got working, it's like if you ever read a New York Times article, it'll give you 2 articles. And then it's like, okay, you reach your limit. And that's a fair trade. And all of a sudden, they turn the ship around, okay? But they're never going to be the same, okay? They were the juggernaut. They are not anymore, okay? And that's because they did a one-sided funnel of innovation. Just value to you, no value to the company. It was one side. So, and because of that one side, number of newspaper firms goes through the floor, okay? So, but this is the turnaround story, but I'm running out of time, so I'm gonna get a little bit faster. So the double-sided funnel of innovation marries the two, and you really gotta think through the value you're providing the customer, almost like you're a nonprofit. How do I provide value to the customer? The customer is most important. That's Jeff Bezos' start with what the customer needs, all right, and then figure out how to make money at it. But if you are not thinking about the customer, don't come to me. That's his rule in Amazon, okay? So you need to think through both, all right? And I find the hubris of engineers is that you think that it is purely about your product. I'm not a finance guy. I didn't go to school for finance. I'm not a marketing dude. Like, I don't need to worry about that stuff, man. I'm a coder. Leave me alone. I don't care what the customer wants. Our software company, we built something off of a .NET framework that legitimately looked like it was used to launch the Apollo program, okay? It was the ugliest thing I've ever seen, but it was fantastic in what it did. And people would buy it, and then they would call us, and they'd be like, I don't know how to use this. And I would go to the coders that built it. I'm like, can you explain to me how this works? Because they can't figure it out. They're like, well, they're too stupid anyway. Well, I'm sorry, but they're paying my paycheck and your paycheck. We're not building this for ourselves. This isn't some like little app that we created to allow us to know when the bus comes so that we can just get to the bus on time. This is something we built and sold to customers. So you need to understand the value to the customers, but you need to understand how to make money at it, okay? Make sense? Any questions, concerns, confusions? Logic gateways. So the logic gateways are a linear path to a business plan, okay? You have a problem, motivation, a customer validation, a value prop, differentiation, how you make money, how you get to market, and who's the team who's gonna build it, okay? So in New York, we have this thing called railroad apartments. I don't know if you guys have this here, railroad apartment. It's where there's no hallway. It was a house that somebody turned into an apartment. So to get from the den to the bedroom, you have to go through the kitchen, the dining room, the living room, the bedroom in order to get to the bathroom. You can't, there's no other way around it. It's the same thing with the logic gateways. You have to go step by step. But the beautiful thing is that each step allows you to build on the next step. So what ends up happening is it's actually very easy to do it because you've done 80% of the work for the next step. And then doing that step, you've done 80% for the next step, so forth, okay? So the first thing is a problem. You need to understand the problem that you are solving. You need to be able to explain that in a way that shows the investor or the CEO or the product manager that it's a big problem. You need to quantify the pain of that problem, and you need to break through their empathy barrier, okay? Everybody's seen these TV commercials of the sad little children in some country or the poor animals that are being abandoned. And that plus the news, it's just, you're gonna have a mental breakdown. So you put an empathy barrier up because you can't handle it. So the empathy barrier allows me to not really care what the problem is, okay? And we all do it, but you gotta break through it when you're explaining that problem, okay? So a great example of this is a company we invested in. They created catalytic converter stoves for third world countries. And what hooked me was they said 3/4 of the world cooks over an open flame. That's like smoking 400 cigarettes every time you cook a meal. Holy crap, that's awful. I used to smoke, and I would smoke a pack a day, that's 20 cigarettes, and I would wake up in the morning hacking up a lung, like, is this the day I get CPOD? Like, I really was like, I really need to quit, and to think of 400 cigarettes just to cook breakfast, that's awful, right? So what they did is, it's huge, 3/4 of the world. Three-quarters of the world cooks over an open flame. What are you talking about? I have a gas stove. 3/4 of the world cooks over wood, dung, coal, okay? That creates carbon dioxide. So what I want you to do is I want you to identify a large problem that's closest to your solution. All right? I want you to come up with a problem that you want to solve. I suggest just go to the the United Nations. The Societal Development Goals are some of the most beautiful collection of problems I've ever seen in my life. You can figure out how to do this from a nonprofit or a capitalistic perspective. So for example, if you want to solve for the environment, why don't you create a tool like a Forex trading platform for carbon credits? You can make a crap ton of money at that, right? So it's solving a major problem, right? And give me a fraction of it, of the world, just explain the fraction, quantify the pain of the problem, add in a relatable phase that puts the listener in the shoes of somebody having the problem, write it all as one sentence, right? It's just like this. 3/4, that's just one sentence. It explains everything crystal clear. That's what I want, okay? The next question is, do you care enough to stick around? So let me give you a story about my business. So started with my team. We're super excited. We're gonna take over the world. This is great. This is amazing. Then we realized nobody wanted our program, and we were like dying. We literally was like 3 dudes in a warehouse in Brooklyn with no air conditioning and no heat on 3 milk cartons, 2 laptops, 3 cell phones, right? For a year and a half. The day we were able to go to IKEA and get office furniture was a bellwether event in our company, all right? And everybody thought we were an idiot, okay? But then you start figuring out how things are working, and you start getting measures of success. And then you plateau and you start going. So these stages are called forming, storming, norming, and performing. And this is every project you will ever work in. Every project, okay? You form, you're all excited, something happens, you get kicked in the teeth, you're getting no positive feedback, this is a good idea. You have to get to the point and keep learning to the point where you start getting positive feedback. You use all that positive feedback to start performing. You reach a limit of performance you can do, and you now have a successful organization or product or team or whatever it is, okay? So this is where my girlfriend left me for an investment banker. This is where my mom told me that she could get me a job selling real estate on the Upper West Side of New York, right in the middle of the real estate bust of 2008, all right? This is where we reached 40,000 customers, okay? And this is where we sold out, okay? Now the question is, if somebody invests in you here, they know that this is going to happen, all right? How do I know you're going to stick to cross that chasm of the shadow of death, all right? That chasm is real, and that's where all startups die. How do I know if I give you $100,000, you're going to get to the norming phase and figure out how to do this successfully, okay? So what I want you to tell me is why you care about it, all right? Now, the next thing we need to figure out is, are you crazy or is this a real problem? Do people actually have this problem? What do they want and what they need, all right? So I want you to interview, if you do this outside of here, interview 100 people. 100 people is sane, one person's crazy. One person will tell you, oh, no, I solved that with honey and tea bags on my eyes. And you're like, what the fuck are you talking about, right? 100 people will amalgamate into a sane understanding of what the problem is and what the customer is. But for here, just talk to 10 other people here and find out whether they have this problem, they know somebody who has this problem, and figure out what they want and need, okay? So, customer validation, you're trying to figure out what they want and what they need. So everybody knows Maslow's hierarchy? Okay? So what I find interesting about Maslow's hierarchy is that there's two sections to it. There's the emotional want at the top and the logical need at the bottom. And depending on where you come from a family dynamic, you'll have heard people say, like, don't do what you want to do. Don't be an idiot. Go get a trade. Go get a job that you can be guaranteed you can make money at, right? That was my dad, right? Or you'll have somebody at the top like, make sure that you're fulfilled, right? You should be happy, you should be fulfilled. And the problem is they're both right, okay? And when you're buying something, you will not put up with one and not the other, okay? So you need to fulfill the emotional want and the logical need, all right? So the want is emotional. What does the customer want? What is their stated emotional desire, okay? I want a super sleek, innovative computer, so my boss says, I like the cut of his jib. He seems very innovative. I want a groovy looking computer, right? Wants can be conscious, unconscious, or unseated. So conscious is obvious. I very clearly understand what I want. Unconscious, I might not understand that I want to make sure that everybody thinks that I know what I'm talking about. Right? And you might need to dig to understand that, right? Unseated, they don't even understand it. So the example I have is Henry Ford, but Steve Jobs had the same thing. Like basically, the reason he came up with the iPhone is because he understood the customer. And he would always say, if I asked them what they wanted, I wouldn't have, they would have never asked for an iPhone. Well, but it's not that he ignored, everyone takes that to mean he ignored the customer. No, he knew the customer so well that he understood their unseated emotional want, okay? So needs are logical. Anybody a Star Trek fan, or are these slides now so dated that, all right? Because I used to get fits of giggles every time I use these slides, and now everyone's like, mm-hmm. I'm like, I got to find a better, but maybe I'll start using anyway, I need a computing device to allow me to access my emails, write my presentation, and do my research. All right, I don't care what it looks like. I need it to be able to do these things. I need these parameters. This is the sell sheet of what that computer needs to do. All right. Objections are what'll kill you. If the product provided what you wanted and what you needed, why would they still not buy it? So, for example, I wouldn't use it if it was pink with Hello Kitty all over it. Or I wouldn't use it if it cost $10,000. Or I wouldn't use it if it was made using slave labor. All right? So you're going to put those three together. Now, I should point out, everyone laughs at this at this Hello Kitty thing, but that's real. Identity is, I need it to reinforce my masculinity. It needs to be camouflage with barbed wire on it. Because if it doesn't, I won't buy it, right? Honestly, I would not buy this if it had Hello Kitty on it. Okay? Does that mean that I'm uncomfortable with my masculinity? Probably, but you still didn't get the sale. Okay? So you need to understand the objection and overcome it. Okay? So when you create that value proposition, it's need plus want minus the objection equals the value. Okay? So here's the 3 examples using those objections. What we have created is a powerful computing device in a sleek, innovative package, all at a low, low price. What we've created is a powerful computing device in a sleek, innovative package, all in a masculine form factor. In a sleek, innovative package, ethically sourced. Okay, so we flipped the objection, and now it's a value prop. Okay? So I want you to take those interviews and figure out what they want and they need and what their objection is and create that value prop, okay? So now you got to figure out who your competitors are. Now, remember I told you 80% of the work is already done for you? So you know who your customers are. You know what they want and they need. That's the XY axis. So plot your competitors. How X is your competitor, right? You're going to find a bunch of people who are very X but not very Y. You're going to find a bunch of people who are Y but not very X. You're going to find people who are kind of losers. They're not very X and they're not very Y. Your job is to make the Xest and Yest solution, okay? And then remember this. Right here at norming was when all our competitors came for us. Everyone thought we were idiots until we started making bank. And then all of a sudden our competitors came. And your job is to defend against those competitors because they're all going to try to rush to be you. So you need to put these blockers in place. You've got to figure out what those blockers are going to be so that it's slower for them to become you, so that you have enough time for version 2. Okay? We had version 10 before our competitors had version 6. We were iterating so quickly that nobody could keep up, and we were eating everybody's lunch because of that. Okay? It was basically the same product, but we kept releasing features. It's the Google plan. The Google Pixel sucks. And then 3 months later, it's amazing. What happened? Like they iterate so quickly that nobody can keep up. Okay? So the next thing is, how do you make money? So remember I told you about those 5x multiples? Here they are. All right? So if it cost you $50, $10 to make it, $10 to sell it, and this is fractionalized, right? It'd be $50. You have to sell it for at least $50. That's the floor to your pricing. Nonprofits usually stop here, okay? There's a ceiling to the amount of money you can charge. That's value-based pricing, all right? So your job is to figure out where. There's something called the golden ratio, all right? Risk over value equals price, all right? So you have these levers. You can lower the risk, or you can raise the value, or you can lower the price. Bad salespeople lower the price, okay? Good salespeople raise the value, lower the risk, okay? So you got to figure out, using that ratio, where that dollar sign goes from your $50 to your $50,000 that their problem is costing them, okay? And that is your profit. Everybody thinks this is your profit. No, that's what you use to defend yourself from those idiots who sue you. This is where you buy your Maserati, okay? All right, so then the next question, do you know how to market this? All right, so this is market sizing, and I very rarely am definitive about you have to do it this way, and not, oh well. I'm very rarely say that you need to do it this way versus that way. But this way is the way every investor wants to see it. So when you go to size your market and you say, there's the women's sanitary market is $2 trillion. So that's our market. Wrong. You're selling Depends. I don't know if you guys said Depends here. Depends are a diaper for old people, right? So you're selling Depends. You have a specific market. Who are the people who will be like, shut up, take my money? That's your specific observable market. How many what do those people look like? They are 55 or 65, because I'm almost 55, so definitely not 55. 65, 75, right? And they have these demographics. How many of those people are in the world, right? And how much does your product cost? It costs $50. Okay, so if they all bought it at $50, how much money? That's how much their specific observable market. It's a very simple equation. Does that make sense? Because now I don't have the graphics, right? Then the challenge you're trying to overcome is you built what they want and need. You need to find them, and you need to explain it to them. That's it. Then the next is your specific addressable market. Those are the people who have the problem, and they're solving it with somebody else. The challenge you need to overcome is you need to differentiate yourself from somebody else in the market, and there's a cost of changing. But I'm using this already. You want me to, I'm not sure whether I want to use that, right? Then the next is total addressable market, right? Total addressable market is everybody who has a problem, whether or not they realize it or not. So the example I always like to give is do you guys know what Lyme disease? Do you have that here? So my dad got Lyme disease, all right? And he's in his 60s at the time, and he was like, he's a curmudgeon. He's like, I'm just getting old. Just getting old. His joints are aching. He's feverish. He's tired. He's like, I'm just getting old. Just getting old. What are you going to do? Luckily, he has an identical twin. And his identical twin was like, you're an idiot. I'm the same age as you. I don't have those problems. Go to the doctor. He went to the doctor. He had Lyme disease. And he got it solved. But he didn't realize he had the right to solve that problem. There's a lot of people the problem is that's behavioral change. We did some work with a diet company. And I asked them, what is the value provided? Is that we change behavior. Because everybody wants to lose the weight without changing their behavior. And that's what we do. We do behavioral change. That's what you have to do. So that challenge is a lot bigger. So you really want to focus on your specific addressable market, and you need to explain to me, as an investor, how you're going to get there, okay? And that is your go-to-market plan. There are 10,000 people in the US who have this problem. If they all bought it at $50, it'd be 500,000, whatever. I'm too tired to do the math, but it'd be X amount of money. And this is how we're getting in front of them. They're all 65, they're on Facebook, and they watch Fox News. So we're going to do TV ads on Fox News, and we're going to do ads on Facebook targeted to 65-year-olds. Okay? Done. That's my go-to-market. Right? Then in that bullseye, who's your team? All right? You got to explain to me who your team is. Why are you a good person to build this? And who's the marketing person who's going to make sure that it's marketed amazingly? And who's the finance person that makes sure the money's going to happen? And who's the sales guy who's going to knock on every door? So that I know that your team is the unfair advantage, because at the end of the day, everything I just told you doesn't matter. I'm investing in you. That's it. And because I know that what you're creating is going to be something different, usually. Slack was something different. Slack was a communication platform for a video game that nobody wanted to play, right? Was it Slack yeah, I think it was Slack. Instagram was a website for liquor, I think. There's all these companies that started as one thing and they pivoted and became something completely different. And that's usually what's going to happen with you. So I really care about who you are, but you having gone through those logic gateways allows me to see how your brain works. And if you have not gone through it, I very specifically did not invest in a team that was building an electric motorcycle, because they came from major companies, and I asked them what customer research they did, and they were like, oh, we don't need to do customer research. We're going to build what they want. They're going to love it. And I'm like, oh, absolutely not. You don't have any idea what an electric motorcycle customer wants. You're coming from ICE motorcycles, combustion engine motorcycles. You don't know. And they were like, yeah, but I'm from X company. And I was like, done. No, I'm uninterested in this team. This team has the hubris that will waste my money. Okay? So just remember that. Okay? Any questions? That's it. I'm done. Sorry. I did as fast as I can. Luckily for you, my battery died, so I couldn't talk any further. But you have any questions? Ask now. If you don't have any questions, please feel free to come up to me at dinner. We can talk about it, or we can talk before the next event tomorrow. Okay? Thank you, guys.